it's a pleasure to be here and to, I would say, learn from the experience of so many stalwarts out here. Welcome all for a great afternoon. The panel discussion, as we say today, we are responsible. Yes, for all the right reasons we are, and landscape being a very key faculty, and I am sure all of we are here because that is something that binds us. So, deep diving in, if Aditya ji, welcome to Mumbai, and it's great to have you here. So, with your experience of academics which you did and now practicing landscape, could you throw some light as to the importance that landscape as a fraternity receives from the overall architectural fraternity, and what are the shortcomings that you would like to highlight there?
Okay, so can everyone hear me? Okay.
Loud and clear.
So I have a perspective which a lot of people do, which is that I practiced landscape architecture for many years in the US for about 25 years, and then I've been practicing in India. So I have a sort of perspective of both places, and when I came to India, what struck me first was the way we were asked to bid on landscapes. And here it was done the way you buy cloth in a shop. You say, "Itne square meter kapda de do." So here they expect you to bid per acre or per square meter. So I was kind of shocked by that, because all my life I had practiced mostly in my adult life in the US, and there we saw landscape as a service. And the service was about solving a problem. It wasn't about just how many acres was involved. So whether it was
how was it bid there? Sorry to interrupt.
You always just tab how much hours you would put onto a project,
okay.
And how complicated it was, and the process that you followed, which was a lot of incorporating a lot of public input. So if you had you anticipated 5 public meetings or 20 or 25, you understood the process, how complicated the project was, and you bid it according to that. And there the client group understood that what you were doing was you were solving a complicated problem for them, a spatial problem. Here it's considered a commodity. And so the commodity then is reduced to the square meters or or to the acres. And so, people can't understand why a small project might cost them a lot to get solved, because it might be a complicated small site. And it's kind of an uphill battle. And so, I think here the whole issue of us seeing landscape not as a service, but more as a commodity, has now even become worse with Pinterest, where people say, give us that fountain, give us that gazebo.
Yeah, just to take a cue from what you said, and sorry to make you jump in, Pronit, immediately in, but is it because we as architects have not yet devised the mechanism of manner timing into our methodology of quoting? I think as architects we all share that. Like we see that across that we have time been built, but we don't build in time. We don't either have the mechanism to build it, or what is it? If you could just...
Hello. Yeah, that's a whole new discussion. And anyway, I think this morning they had that with Salil doing the COA manual with hopefully all our fees and everything gets built in, but nothing's being followed in the market, right? And as far as time-based billing is unheard of. I mean, not in my practice. So for us, we have a very different experience. We definitely think and have been trained for landscape design as a complete service, not a product. In my experience, whatever I've had, we've done some large master plans and larger landscape infrastructures, where we kind of, for us, what we've kind of encountered is, and also especially that's because it's not in the city like Bombay, especially in Bombay. Like Delhi, of course, has a space. So, but for smaller cities, like we're working with Jaipur, Indore, Raipur, where there are larger spaces, but the clients don't have the kind of value for real landscape designers, right? In that sense. So rather than working with the designers that we're not compatible with, we kind of do the landscape ourselves, because for us, landscape, architecture, interiors, graphics, environment.
But you do integrate landscape into your overall.
Yeah, it is very much a part of our thing. But of course, we not horticulture. I mean, horticulture is a super specialized science for us, so we have to work with a horticulturist.
Coming back to you, Aditya ji, you were saying about
Yeah, I actually think, the other, also I'd like to mention that, landscape as its own, in its own standing is not valued in India, especially by architects. And so I'm sorry to
the underutilization.
What happens is that they design the building, they don't integrate your into your input till the building is designed and set, the master plan is done. And so then what we are reduced to is the shrub it up role. They bring us in and say, now shrub it up, and put your lights, put your shrubs, put your trees, give us the way, just green it up. So unfortunately, from being people who create place, I see landscape architecture as creating place, outdoor spaces where actually people enjoy themselves the most. They come out and mingle and meet, and their lifelong memories are made in the landscape. Right. Now, when the architect chooses to not collaborate and just design it on their own, this is what happens currently in India, is changing more and more. Then you end up with a better product. So I think, in terms of, does the architecture faculty prefer to use us in a more meaningful way? It's up to them. And we also have to explain to them that this is the case.
Coming to you, Urmila ji, as responsible landscape architects, the role that infrastructure has to play, you had a very strong view on that, of how infrastructure landscape can contribute towards its development. So,
yeah, just before I go to that, I hope I'm heard. Yeah. I'd just like to add on to what Aditya was mentioning, that maybe the roots of this attitude lie in how we handle the allied disciplines right from school. We refer to them as, in architecture, as architecture and allied, which means they are a subsidiary role. What we really need to realize that each faculty, and we take away from this sectoral role of each one being king in his own domain, and accept that we need to work as a team right from the beginning of every project. And that's where we should be heading. Maybe we've started baby steps now, but that's really the way to go. And Nilesh, coming back to your question about infrastructure, we somewhere, I think from the Industrial Revolution period, have forgotten that infrastructure is what we take from nature. Ultimately, resources come from nature. And we tend to view it as a separate sector altogether and alienate it from that. If you look at historical design, infrastructure always had all these components.
Right.
And we tend to view landscape as something which is a beautifying factor. But actually, landscape, which designs a land, has the potential to provide for the resources. Right. So we need to understand that whatever we do as infrastructure cannot neglect the role of landscape.
So could you then highlight upon the underutilization, that there is so much potential in landscape, but
So for instance, in our country, we have this huge railway network, which is kind of runs amok over wherever it goes, boroughs, under land, and our road networks have also started doing the same. So if we look at what we were changing, and in the landscape, and what it provided to the cities, whether it was in terms of greenery, or whether it's water bodies or systems which helped us towards having a stable climate, and incorporated that into our design right from the beginning, where especially when you look at the larger infrastructure projects like the highways or even the railways, maybe even the airports, and other such huge interventions that we have, and incorporate that attitude right from the huge to the smallest, it would really make a huge difference.
True. I couldn't miss this opportunity to ask you, because you're so much core into academics and core into, how have you seen the churn of, and how have you seen the attraction of the younger generation towards landscape as a fraternity, and how are you seeing a change there?
So when we teach the students who come into architecture, they come with the notion that landscape means the color green.
Okay.
And we do try to change that. And coming to the master's program which I run, this is somewhere where we really try to instill these core values. and lead up to it from semester to semester and guide them towards thesis topics. Situated as we are in a highly urbanized city, which has its infrastructures changing every second, you could always say, because buildings get knocked down and flyovers come over there, bridges are there, they disappear, buildings shoot up, roads shoot up, a whole lot of things overlay each other. So we've tried our best to instill this, and it reflects in the kind of thesis topics that our students have been looking at.
But Pronit, if I look at what would be your expectations from a landscape architect, as in, does this satisfy what an architect needs from a core specialist landscape architect?
100%. That is, of course, we are constantly in search of the right partners, right? I mean, they are our design partners, in equal measure, completely. Because for us, it's the same in terms of importance. The landscape, the architecture, the environmental graphics, the interiors. For us, there's no distinction, at least in our studio. For us, that's the thing. And for the challenges, of course, there are the right partners, but the challenges for us is not about finding the right partners, it's about getting the clients to sign on to get us the right partners. So that is where our limitations come in. But that's where we start coming in to start, as Aditya said, to do the right placemaking for us. I mean, we have done a fair bit of master plans which are well received, very different from what is around. But of course, we lack completely in the horticulture department.
Yeah, you did mention that. Devendra, you have been a patient listener, so you have seen what the architects or what the industry wants, and as Ultratech, what are your solutions, or what would be your expectations from the designer community?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me here. Well, we have been engaging with this community for last few years, and we recognize the gap.
How many years?
Maybe 5-6 years.
Many years.
Yeah,
I think Ultratech has a long.
We have a long history. We have been present, but what we realized a few years back, that our engagement with the landscaping community itself was a little bit low. So unless we understand your requirements, how will we provide the solutions which are appropriate, right? So we really got a lot of feedback from you all, and we came up with certain kind of solutions which are appropriate, especially when we are talking in terms of sustainability. The solutions do not just need to solve the problem, they do not just need to be economical, but these solutions also need to be sustainable, right? So for example, we came up with something called pervious concrete. So this concrete allows, hardscapes are a challenge, right?
True.
Like you need to, in your landscape, you need to build sufficient runoff, percolation of water into the ground. So pervious concrete is very interesting because it allows you to have hardscape and yet have reduced runoffs, water and water.
And the life is as good as.
Yeah, life is as good as concrete. Performance is as good as typical M15, M20 grade concrete. So you can have a parking lot, a walkway, those kind of stuff.
This is indeed a game changer, because we face these challenges where you have glare, we have paved surfaces, and then you have again solar refractive issues. But if just imagine a floor which absorbs, it is a sponge, but it can take a fire tender load. Does it take a fire tender load? No.
Fire tender will be tough,
but vehicular load, car load at least.
Yes, car load.
So it's a road which absorbs. It is just a hard sponge. So I think it's a good game changer in the industry.
Yes.
So you have a good R&D team to support. You have good designers.
Yes. We have in Taloja, we have a Aditya Birla Science and Technology Center, manned by probably 100 plus researchers, not only for this field, but we give them projects. So one of the projects which my team delivered recently is when we were talking about the lighting a little while back. So there is a solution which can be a pavement surface which glows in the dark. So we are piloting it, and like you talked about the support required. If we had more problems coming to us, like what can we solve in terms of coming from cement and concrete industry, if we could have we could work together on pilot projects, demonstration projects, and demonstrate some of these solutions to the industry, that will be great.
Aditya sir, you said about landscape as a service and a product. Now we have a classic case here where you have a product manufacturer who is churning out products for the industry, where the industry itself is at a crossroads of defining itself of whether it is a service or a product and how it can productivize itself. So could you share some thoughts on it?
But I think, you know, it's very healthy that we are having this debate, and the one before this also, that you know, we are looking at pervious concrete, we are looking at ways to reduce the night sky pollution, we're looking at ways to integrate our work with architecture. So because, you know, we bring a unique situation, what landscape architects are different than any other architectural or whatever design field is, we see the holistic picture. We see connectivity. So I think of us as connectors. We connect ecology to people, people to buildings, buildings to gradient, you know, water to its recharge. So the way we look at a site in a very holistic manner, from the point of view of entering the site, the point of view of even creating the boundary around the site. Is it going to trap animals into the site if you do a very large? We'll think about something like that. Okay, you've got a big campus, there's nature around. We'll start thinking about those ideas, you know, that the land, water is flowing from another situation, not only from your hillside, but from the hillside above you. So if we start thinking of that in this holistic manner, this pervious concrete is a perfect example. We have a lot of issues with recharge. Yeah, that would be an excellent thing. So if we can feed back to the industry on how to improve native planting, so we're not using, you know, or how to change, we were having this discussion earlier, how to change the user's mindset, not wanting too much lawn, minimizing the amount of lawn. So these are the things that we are ambassadors. Basically, our role is to educate. So we have to continuously educate all the people we meet, the children, our clients, the service providers, the people who are the manufacturers of all these things. I think if we do that, the onus is on us.
Urmila ji, and as landscape architects, because of the stage that we are standing on, we have so much of an opportunity for social contribution. So what are the touch points, if you could highlight, as landscape architects on a social level? Environmental level, of course, we do a lot, but at a social level, what are the touch points that we touch base with the masses?
So a lot of the social level, you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, has to do with the places that we create, which provide opportunities for community interaction, and also maybe for an interface for communities to actually not just meet each other, but also interact with the place itself. And creating such spaces is something which is important. Like for instance, we have a small park.
Just
here.
a minute. We could go on and on. So if you could have questions from the audience till we start, you could, yeah. After this will come. Yeah, after ma'am. Yes, please continue.
Yeah. So we have a small park called the Maharashtra Nature Park, Mahim Nature Park as it is also known, which grew out of a certain amount of infrastructure being laid by several NGOs and then community interaction with communities participating in it, and which they've opened their doors to. So maybe that could be considered as an example. Okay. Like you have the urban leaves.
So also has to be a two-way street. Like it cannot never be a one-way street wherein as landscape architects we reach out, but the calling, which it has to be a push and pull strategy. So what can we do for a pull strategy?
So for instance, we could adopt spaces.
Okay.
This we could do probably through our bodies that we create. Like Isola is the body that we have for landscape architects. We could adopt and have examples of that. We could also, as a school, which we are doing. We've looked at a wetland space in the neighboring Palghar district, which is a pro bono. It's not there's nobody who's funding us as of now, but we are looking at providing something which protects that wetland and works for the villagers as well, it's almost into the peri-urban area of Mumbai today.
Okay.
So such initiatives could work.
Lovely. So we could have.
So connecting what Urmila was saying regarding resources and with the manufacturer, how can we bring synergies in terms of using recycled material or reusing, stuff, malba or whatever into your system of production? More experiments in those, aspects is something that we have been grappling with in our this thing, and we need a larger scale development alternatives and all. They are doing some, research
Specifically directed to?
him. What Urmila said.
Okay.
To the, I'm asking.
Yeah. So what would be your recycled solutions?
Yeah, excellent question, and I would love to take this opportunity to update you guys about some of the steps we are taking. So first, use of construction demolition aggregates. Now this is like thanks to the government bodies and municipalities, they are making it compulsory. So city after city, the adaptation is happening, and we are taking the lead in the concrete which we are manufacturing. In a very careful, very well-designed manner, we are using these recycled aggregates into our concrete. And if the customer and our users are open to it, we are even willing to certify the concrete that it is made using recycled material.
But where do you collect your recycled concrete from?
So there are now vendors who are having a plant, proper, very good recycling plant, at least 2-3 plants running in Bombay, other cities as well, Hyderabad, Delhi, Vizag. So some of these locations I have already started. Very good material available. One can design concrete using it. Of course, there are design procedures you need to follow. That's one. We are also working with materials like plastic. We use fibers in concrete. You are aware, right? Synthetic fibers. We are replacing synthetic fibers by extracting fibers from waste material. Things like tires. Tires have a lot of fibers in it. You can use recycled fiber, get the fiber out of it. Fishing nets, all sorts of material. So I'm not talking only laboratory scale, but I'm talking about commercial scale production. So for a sustainability conscious customer, we are willing to certify the concrete with the kind of the degree of recycled material it can.
Can I answer you? Yes, please. Some of them.
Good evening, sirs here and madam. We come from we are a small part of the sustainability aspects of your wonderful creations. What I want to ask is that today, when public health is becoming more and more critical, we obviously have COVID that has made us realize a lot of impacts. From the landscape perspective, particularly when we are trying to support your industry with the clients, the impact of pest issues on landscape creations on structures as well as public spaces. So for example, there have been cases where the landscape is created in a manner that it's allowing easy ingress of pest issues, particularly rodents, mosquitoes, impacting the health of the occupants around that. Is there something that can be worked out as a strategy? Because there is product available, the great minds are available, and the service industry is there to support the creations. But we need to look at public health, because there are, every 5 seconds a child is dying due to malaria across the globe.
Sir, you would like to take this?
I'll be facetious then I say the biggest pests in the world are the human beings. So we can just have fewer human beings around. The mosquitoes would have fewer human beings to bite.
They would be having a conference somewhere similar.
They'll have a separate conference.
Then please take care of human pests.
I think these are discussions, when we design our landscapes, we think about those particular issues, and one of our biggest issues is termite control in India. How to create, organic methodologies to minimize termite damage to our structures, to our trees. So those are the things we want. Actually, I think that comes from the industry who has to come up with ideas. So I don't know about rodent control. What would be the best solution to that? Have a lot
the
of
solutions
snakes.
of
Have a lot of snakes around. Have a lot. So it's a good question. I don't think I have an answer to it. But
the solutions of laser and laser controlled infrared hasn't worked. They work selectively for projects, right?
Actually, ultrasound, laser are not effective for these creatures. So, like Sir mentioned, a very valid point. If rodents are there, snakes are there, and snakes are protected species. Anyone involved in any form of snake control can be, reprimanded seriously by the current laws. The other thing is bees. Bees are dying, and Sir mentioned about termite control. Today there are non-phytotoxin alternatives. However, all project specifications still have the age-old termiticides that are being used. And be it landscape, there have been times where we've just requested that just keep 2 feet distance between the structure and the landscape.
True.
And the rodents won't enter. Because if the harborage is closed, but it doesn't get, we are looking at
So there's a queue
support.
for Ultratech to now take it up. Your R&D team has homework to do to develop a concrete which repels mosquitoes and pests. And
Hi, Nilesh, I just
yes, please.
Gentleman, has he left? Is he there? So my point is here we are talking about connecting to nature.
Embrace mosquitoes is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
I would say so, and then it's quite simple. You don't create a water body which has stagnant water.
Stagnant water. Yeah,
It's as
that's true.
simple as that. And the remaining mosquitoes which are there,
Love them.
Where does what is your definition for nature? If you say it's mosquitoes, then chuna, then snakes. So we are
As long
a
as
landscape
the
architects,
mice are white, it's okay.
yeah, we would like to embrace all
Okay.
creatures.
it's very funny you bring this up because I have clients who want to live in farmhouses,
And they
but they
don't
say
want.
we can't bear insects. बहुत कीड़े होंगे, कीड़े आएंगे. These are plants, attracts, it's beneficial. They're scared of stepping out, but they want to live on a farm.
Yeah. We'll take a last question from. Yeah.
I joined in a little late in this discussion, and I was very keen when you said that there are technologies that you're developing, and one of them was glow in the dark pathways. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
And while you do that, since you're in the close, you also have an excellent product called Stamp Concrete. If you could just throw some light on that as well, then we would call it a day.
Yeah. So glow in the dark is basically it's a very similar to stamped concrete. The process is very similar to stamped concrete. Only what we are changing there is we are inducing these particles, the stones which are available, which basically are fluorescent. So they absorb the light during the day, emit light during the night. Very simple. The whole expertise lies in how you introduce those particles into the pavement in a robust manner so that they are durable, they perform. So, yeah.
Yes, there's a follow-up. Yeah. No.
Quite keen on understanding this. Sorry, but are there any tests that you have done? Whether because your surface, walking surface becomes lit, it will become very jarring for your eyes to move on them. And if they are low, it will actually become very artistic. So, right from the artistic, very noisy kind of situation, are there any tests that you have done so that they can actually be used productively?
So, honestly, my expertise lies more in terms of processes and concrete as a material, but the degree of light it
Illuminance
throws,
is not
illuminance
yet.
and all, I think I will need support from you all. But as far as that product is concerned, you don't need to worry about the excess of light. Not at all.
It's the other way
very
around
soft
actually. It's a
light.
deficiency of light that it is. As
Yeah.
much as I know. So it doesn't emit enough light, but it just tells you where the pathway is.
Correct.
And on a cloudy day, during those 4-5 months, it will not lit because it needs sunlight for it to recharge itself and then emit light. So there are some challenges that as there, but it's an innovative product in the making, and once it works out, it would be great.
Thank you. And just about Ultratech decor. Again, it's stamped concrete is a technology which has been there worldwide for very long. Our credit to fame is that we have developed the ecosystem, the network of applicators, the benchmarking of quality of material, so that you can be sure that the what you approve on the drawing board, you get it on the field. So we have this end-to-end solution called Ultratech Decor, wherein you can get all varieties, patterns, colors of not just stamped concrete, but even the upcoming finishes like sand wash, exposed aggregate, all of these finishes we are able to give to our customer, like not just provide you a concrete in a truck, but also the applicator and the end-to-end delivery of the product.
Thanks. Thank you. I think we have had a heartfelt discussion. Thank you, Urmila ji. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you, Pronit, Devendra. It was lovely talking to all of you. Thanks. Over to you.